Hello everybody, this is Potato, and welcome back to the beautiful, glorious, wonderful, sunny world of the Minecraft Championship 10 Parkour Warrior, built by none other than the man, the myth, the retired epic landlord himself. Aw yeah. So anyways guys, basically the idea behind this video is when you're watching me do the parkour, 100% flawless, easy clap first try every time, it does help. You see some of what I do, but I don't think it's the full picture. So that's what I wanted to do with this video, is basically go through all the stages and just explain my thought process for what I do when I go through all of them. And you can see I have some sort of crazy setup. We'll get back to that in a second. But this first stage, for the most part, it's pretty straightforward. And actually, before I get into that, I do want to point out real quick that in the escape menu, most of my options are default, but in here in accessibility settings, I do have auto jump off because it's annoying, and I have sprint on toggle because what I've found is with this course, I've never really had a reason to walk. You're always really shifting, standing still, or sprinting. So I say, hey, why not just toggle on sprint and then never touch it again? So this first stage is pretty simple. You just jump off here, go for the ladder, try not to overshoot the slime block. If you are about to overshoot, just by letting go of W, but try not to hit S because that can kill your momentum. Also, that first stage is pretty easy, but it's also a pretty good testing rig to show you some pretty important stuff about ladders. So first of all, if I just sprint off here without jumping, I kind of start to catch on the ladder there, but I don't actually climb. Now the reason for that is that ladders actually have this hitbox that extends out of the block. It goes 3 pixels out, which is 3/16ths of a block, so you can see it aligns with the wooden trapdoor and the iron trapdoor. And yeah, if I step on some wood and iron trapdoors, my Y coordinate goes up by 0.1875, which is the decimal for 3 pixels basically. And the thing about these 3 pixels is if you're touching that hitbox at all, it slows you down. So you see if I walk through this, I slow down while I walk past the ladder. And it's the same with that too. So what's happening when I do this is I'm touching those 3/16ths of a block and it's slowing my fall, but I'm not actually climbing the ladder, because to climb the ladder, it's not enough to just be touching this hitbox. You actually have to be walking up against the wall. You can demonstrate this by walking straight at the ladder, and you can see I only start to climb when I actually hit the wall, when I stop moving forward. And it doesn't have to be the wall the ladder's on. For example, you can go this way, and you can see again, as soon as I hit the wall, I start climbing. And it works this way too. And so the reason why I fall here is because I don't actually hit the wall, so I don't stop moving forward, so I don't climb the ladder. But there are a couple ways around this. First of all is shift. Now with shift, if you're anywhere within those 3 pixels, if you're touching them at all, it's impossible to go down as long as you're holding shift, even if you're not actually touching the wall, like that. So you can use shift with the perfect timing to catch the ladder. You can see I just sprinted off and then I hit shift at the right moment and I catch the ladder. I don't fall. It basically buys you enough time to go forwards and then run into the wall and then start climbing. The thing about shift though is if I hold shift right here, it absolutely kills my momentum. You can't really go forwards, which means you need to time it at the exact right moment when you're about to hit the ladder. Except I kind of cheated there by jumping. But there's an even better solution, because if you are within one of those 3 pixels, if you're touching them at all, and you hold the space bar and W at the same time, it actually sort of boosts you upwards. Let me show you. If I sprint forwards and then hold space, I get like a little lift as soon as I come near the ladder. I don't have to run into the wall before I start climbing, like that. And so 99% of the time I use jump, because if you hold jump in midair, nothing happens, but as soon as you come close to the ladder, you're going to go straight up, and that's really useful for some of the later stages. Okay, so that was a lot of explanation for the first stage, but it gets easier from here. So this one, really, just take your time. It's not that complicated. Just don't suck. I always do this skip because I enjoy wasting precious seconds falling, but you make your own choices. It's not that hard. This one, there isn't really that much to say either. Just make sure you're getting the timing, make sure you're lining up yourself up with the corners of the blocks, and you should be able to make it to the pink level where the grass grows, the cows moo, because everything's better at beefs. Okay, this one's also pretty simple. Basically, the trick is you always want to aim at the inside. So if you're jumping to the right, you always want to aim at the left side of the block. If you're jumping to the left, you aim at the right side of the block. And if you do that, you can actually just hold W and jump the entire way. Even on this jump in the middle here, which is one block wider than the others, it's still pretty easy, as long as you're just holding W in space and you aim correctly. Now this one, what I'd really recommend here is just jump around this corner and then jump to there. There's really no reason to go down this way. You're just kind of wasting your time. Then up here, this jump's hard because there's a leaf block in the way. So you see it's really hard to make. But you actually don't have to do that because you can actually jump straight from this trapdoor to the end there. You can see it's 5 blocks across, 1 block down, and then you also have to go a little bit to the side. So it's a pretty far jump, but if you do a momentum sprint jump, you can make it, except I'm not that good at it. Another thing is, sometimes you can skip from this trapdoor straight over to there. The key there is you want to start, basically you're out here, and then you go back a little bit. You can't be against the wall because then that'll kill your momentum. So you need to be out a little bit. And another thing that helps is if you start back here, do a momentum sprint jump to land on that spot I just showed you, and then jump. So let me see if I can do it, and there we go. And then on this one, it's kind of similar. You want to go a little bit out because the block you're trying to reach is to the side. Let me see if I can pull it off. Nope. Almost there. And there we go. I did it. This one, also relatively straightforward. Again, I just say take your time because what you can do is, like, let's say I'm just holding space here. That actually makes it really hard. You can see sometimes you don't have enough momentum to make it. So even if you're not going to stop sprinting, at least give a little pause between jumps. Press space individually each time and just kind of relax, get used to it, and you should be okay on that one. This one, so what you really want to do here is bounce once, and then bounce twice, and then hold space to catch the ladder, just in case you're a bit short. But I will note that it is possible to do it in 3 bounces, so like if you hit this thing, and then you're like, oh no, I'm not going to make it. It is hard though. I wouldn't recommend trying to do 3 bounces, it's more of a last resort thing, and the reason for that is because you can see here, the slime blocks end 3 blocks before the ladder, which means you kind of have to get the distance just right in order for it to work, but it can work. Let me see if I can pull it off. There we go. I just bounced 3 times, and because I was holding space, I managed to make it. Now these. So these is really all about lining yourself up with the centers of these little doorways. And the way I like to do that is by looking at the insides of the blocks. So the inside of the trapdoor here, and the inside of the glass here. You can see if I'm lined up perfectly, they should be about the same width. So like we have a little skinny, I guess, parallelogram here and another skinny one here. What you don't want is like something like this, where this one's super thin and this one's thicker, because if it looks like that, then you're not going to make it in. So you line it up like that, and this is one where I'd really recommend taking your time. Otherwise, there's going to be lots of falling in your future, just like what I'm doing. And then the other thing to be careful of is, well, A, falling, but B, there's one jump right here. This one's longer than the rest. It's 1 block up, so you really got to make sure you're jumping on the corner of the slab. But if you do that, you should be able to make it through. This one I honestly do recommend for everyone. Like, don't stop sprinting. You can get used to it, and you can get kind of consistent at it. One thing I will say is you usually want to avoid the strafe keys on this, except maybe when you're getting to that first glass pane. Because what I used to do is like I would spam strafe keys all over the place, and it kind of threw me off. It made me less consistent because I couldn't really get used to how to aim my mouse along with that. So I'd recommend just hold W the whole time, time space, time your flicks to the side. Another thing to note is that there's 2 different lengths of jumps there. So there's like a short version where you need to aim at like 45. Actually, let me just show you. So there's like a short version. Oh, I'm back here. Yes. Sorry. So there's a short version which you start out with where you only need to aim like 45 degrees to make it. And this is a longer one. You can see it's one block further. So you almost need to aim completely straight. So it goes like short and long. This one's short and then there's two long ones at the end. So those are tricky if you don't get it kind of just right. So let's just go to the next one. This is where the space bar becomes really nice. It's for catching the ladders when you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Another thing about this is that every bit of distance matters, because when you're jumping that far, what happens is you get to a point where you're falling really fast, which means if you can get just a little bit further on the initial jump, you'll actually get a lot more height. One way you can see this sort of empirically is if I jump a little bit before the end of the block here, I still make it apparently, but if you're a bit too short, like let me try to show you what that looks like. So if I get back here and I jump from about there, you can see it looks like, wow, it was like 2 or 3 blocks short there. How did that happen? I jumped almost at the front of the block, not at the front of the block. But yeah, every bit of distance matters here because you're just falling so fast by the end. But if you do maximize how far you're going and you use the space bar, it should be not too hard. This one, honestly, really easy. What you always do, or what I always do, is when I'm on the ladder, I hold W in space, which means as soon as I get to the top, I'm going to jump, and that ensures that I'm never going to overshoot the slime block, is what I found. And on this one, if you actually don't hold space on this, you get that thing again where you start to get slowed down by the ladder, but you don't actually climb it because you don't reach the wall in time. But if you hold the space bar, it's actually super easy, barely an inconvenience. Whoopsie. Alright, anyways, I gotta try that again now. So yeah, if you do hold space, make sure you're not holding space on the slime block because then you're gonna fall flat and it's gonna suck. Now this one. So there are a couple parts to this one. First of all, on this part, I just kind of aim straight to go as fast as possible. But when you're doing the actual jump itself from this ladder to that one down there, you can't see it, but the one to the bottom right, you kind of want to be aiming 45 degrees this way. So, so what it looks like altogether is like you're aiming straight, and then right before you get to the end, you turn like that and hold space so that you don't fall out the bottom. Then this one's all about just learning the timing. It's not too difficult once you get the hang of it. And this one's another place where the space bar is super nice. And let me show you what happens. If I'm not holding space, what happens is as soon as my aim goes a little bit away from the wall, then I'm no longer against the wall, which means I stop climbing, which means I fall. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm not holding space right now, and that happens. I just fall instantly. On the other hand, let me show you what happens when I do hold space there. If I can time that, yep. If I do hold space, I can actually safely peel my aim away from the wall, and I'm perfectly fine because I'm still within those 3 pixels and I'm holding space, so I keep going up. Now this one you just have to be careful on. I'm not completely used to the hitbox of the glass pane, so I always shift to the edge and then go a little bit in and then do the jump. So I shift and then go. And another thing about this is that it's kind of a lot of jumps. It doesn't look like it, but it is, which means, of course, if you fall, there's a lot you're going to have to redo. So you kind of have to constantly be paying attention. It's definitely not a stage where you want to be going AFK. But if you are careful, you should be able to make it. Don't jinx it. Yep, and there we go. Now this one. The way I like to learn this one is, well, first of all, you see that next one you have to get to is to the right, so you want to jump to this head. So what I'm doing now is I'm holding shift, and I'm holding W, and I'm holding D. Now what I'm going to do is press space, then let go of shift, then let go of D, and then I'm going to reshift to land. So that looks like that. And then you can jump to there pretty easily. And then this, I want to get to the left side, so I do it on the opposite side. And again. And then this one you actually do have to go all the way to the front, so you have to go around twice. And then this jump is kind of hard, but first of all, I want to show you that as you do that more and more, you kind of get used to it, so you have to shift less and less, sort of like that. And then even what I do nowadays is I don't shift at all, so I just time the jump, and hopefully I don't embarrass myself here. And yeah, I made it. And then this jump also isn't terribly difficult. Sometimes the hitbox of the skull can mess you up, but it just takes some getting used to. Now this one, so most of these jumps are long, but this first one is actually kind of short, so it's not that hard. Now this jump. So the deal with this one is if you don't sprint for long enough before jumping, you won't have enough momentum to make it, even if you're holding space there. But on the other hand, if you hold W and then you don't jump soon enough, that was a bad example. If you're holding W and then you don't jump soon enough, you're going to fall off the ladder, like that basically. It's going to be sad. So you need to learn the timing, sort of like that. And this is one place where I think toggle sprint really helps because it simplifies things. You don't have to worry about pressing control or whatever your sprint key is. The other way that I actually like to deal with this is to get the momentum needed, because remember you need to hold W a bit before pressing space. I actually run straight this way a little bit, then flick to the left and jump. Sort of like that, except without missing because I didn't flick enough. And in fact, what I've kind of gotten used to is where you like kind of chain them together continuously. It does sometimes take a few attempts, but that's how it is. And of course, I am holding space as I come into the ladder because, again, that helps you climb up the ladder and not fall off. Now this one. So this one can be a bit tricky. The jump, I find the jump from sort of the horizontal hoops to these vertical ones isn't that hard, but jumping from the vertical one to the horizontal one is harder. So you need to get used to this hitbox. One thing you can do is shift to the edge to find the edge, then go in a little bit and then jump, just like the glass panes. Another thing you can do if you want a running start is start about from the middle here, and if you aim correctly, you should be able to make it, unlike that. But if you do it correctly, it apparently doesn't work. Hold on. There we go. That works. So then, there's also the way I like to do it, which is by sort of doing a double jump. And there's sort of two parts to it. So first, when I'm jumping out, I'm aiming completely straight and maybe a little bit down. And then I just use the strafe key A to land on the edge here. And then when I'm here, I want the jump itself to be aimed that way. But the entire rest of the time, I want it to be aimed straight or even a little bit left, which means I'm going to have to flick to the right quickly and then back. And in fact, the reason why I aim down is because when you're aiming down, you can actually turn faster than when you're aiming sideways. You see here I'm turning like, I don't know, 60 degrees, and here I'm turning maybe 30. So let me show you what that entire motion looks like actually. Let me see if I can pull it off. Nope, I didn't quite go wide enough there. And that time I was too wide. So it does take some getting used to, but I've kind of gotten it down. Still not perfect. Let me see if I can land 3 in a row here. And yeah, there you go. Just make sure when you're jumping from the hoop to the other hoop, don't jump right away. You need that half block of distance, otherwise you're going to fall short. But if you get used to that, you should be able to make it here. So this one, there's sort of a couple different types of jumps here. This is one of the longer ones, actually, so it helps to have momentum going into it. Then this one's kind of short. I kind of do that to make it. And then that one is almost 4 blocks, so I like to have momentum for that. Then this one, you kind of need to be on like that spot where you're not all the way out of the corner, because then you don't have any time to run, but you're also not up against the wall, because then that would stop you. So you need to be sort of on the corner there. Then this one is also one of the longer ones. It's just like the one at the beginning, like that. And then this one's shorter, and this one you just have to be careful, not fall. And most of the time when I'm actually doing this, I tend to kind of momentum a lot of it. So I momentum all of that, and sometimes I don't make that one because I don't time the jump correctly. But then I stop here always because it's kind of stupid to try to go straight there without lining it up. And then I also like to line up this one, and I just take these ones kind of slow because it's near the end and I don't want to lose my progress. Now these. So this is mostly a bunch of the same kind of jump, one thing to be careful of, by the way, is if you jump from the front edge of this carpet, you're going to hit your head on that, which can be kind of disorienting, so I always jump from the back of the carpet. And then this one. So there are a couple ways to do this kind of jump where you're jumping past the glass pane to the other block. At the beginning here, I always just do the momentum because that gets you enough distance to just kind of make it either way. But then on all the other ones, I like to kind of line it up. So I find what tends to help is I stand about on the middle of the block or maybe a bit forwards, and then I aim just slightly in, not too much, and then I go like that. It's the same on the other side. And then this is really the hard one, where you're going sort of from the inside to the outside past the glass pane. I sort of line it up like maybe here on the block and I'm aiming about here. And then I do the sort of momentum in place to get a little bit further, but still I'm not amazing at it, so it will take me a few attempts to get it here. Let's see. And then this one's the hard one, but hey, I made it. And now there's only one more of these, and then a 3-block jump into the blue level, where everything tastes better, because let's be honest, if your food isn't blue, are you really living? Yeah, I didn't think so. So anyways, on these trapdoors, basically the way you line it up is like what we've done a couple times before, where you go to the corner and then you back up a bit so you don't run into the wall. Same thing here. And then this one is a little bit shorter. They actually made it shorter. So you can kind of jump around there. And then this one's definitely the longest because you need to go 2 blocks out. Now what I found is it actually kind of helps not to shift at the end here. What I do is I jump out this way, then I aim straight, and I hold W and A to catch the trapdoor. And it almost worked, but didn't quite pan out that time. And then the other thing is I actually kind of like to run this entire thing all at once. But again, I am using the same landing spots. So I'm landing about there. Again, that's the place you would line up by going to the corner and then back a bit. I'm trying to land there. I'm just not lining it up with all the crouching and everything. So let me see if I can do that. Yeah, it looks kind of like that. And then this one, sometimes it can help also on that long one where you have to go 2 out. Sometimes it can help to get a running start first because you will go further if you run a little bit first. Let me see if I can actually get there though. And if it can work if you kind of try to do it all at once like that, because again, it gives you more distance. But in the end, it is kind of about practice, and I'm still not amazing at it, clearly. But hey, I'm totally gonna make it eventually. I have faith. Yep. It's gonna happen. Yep, there we go. So you can see I aimed pretty wide there, honestly, but because I had the momentum, I had enough sort of distance. I was going far enough that I could correct by turning in. Now this one. So this one is basically the jump from here to there, and then there to there, and then there to there, and then there to there. It's like 4 of the exact same jump. So the way you do it is you go to the back here, and then you're gonna hit W and then space with a little delay in between, and then you're gonna jump off of that corner, and then while you're in the air, you need to line it up so that basically there's a line between this corner, and you, so you're jumping straight from corner to corner. So what that should look like is something like that, except that there was some lag there, so on the other side it looks like that. And then also what I like to do sometimes is I do a sort of double jump. I do one of them and then immediately do the other one. It is actually possible to do all 4 of those jumps all like in the same chain, but it does take a lot of sort of finesse and timing, and I don't like it. Okay, everyone's favorite, the ladder neos. Let's see it. So what I strongly recommend practicing on this is getting past the glass pane. Because once you've gotten that down, in my opinion, that's really 70% of it. So what I do is I go to the back of the ladder and I am against the wall. Some people jump from like here and it works for them, but I don't really know how to do that consistently. So I go to the back and I go against the wall. And what you practice really is just jump out. It looks really silly, but I think this is like 70% of the jump, is just jumping out past the glass pane. Make sure you're getting like the proper momentum. So like there, that looked decent, but I really pressed space too soon, so my jump fell kind of short, and that's a no-no. So you just get used to doing this kind of the right way, where you maximize the distance, you get the momentum, unlike that. And then once you've really gotten that down and you've gotten a feel for what you can get away with, like with what you're aiming, so that doesn't happen. Once you've gotten a feel for all of that, then you can start turning. So the goal here is to basically turn so you're facing that way towards the ladder. And again, it really helps here to aim downwards because that helps you turn faster, sort of like that. And on this one, I like to hold shift to catch the ladder because what I found is sometimes I'm stupid and I keep holding space too long, which means I mess myself up by jumping here. But that's just me. Then jumping across. And then this one is actually different from the first one because on the first one you get to shift all the way to the back, whereas this one there's a glass pane in the way, so you can see I'm trying to run into it and it won't let me. So that means you might have to relearn where to aim initially. Now another thing with this stage actually is the first jump you do is on the left side, right? Which means let's say you make that jump 1/3 of the time. Well then you practice it 3 times, you make it once, then you jump across and you try that once. So really what's happening is you're getting 3 times as much practice on the left side as on the right side, and that's kind of bad because there are 2 right side jumps here. So what I did, honestly, when I was practicing is I just went into creative and I built another thing to the side there where I could just do the right side right away. And that actually helped me a lot because at first I was really struggling on the right side jump, but that seemed to help me a ton. So, let me see if I can complete this now. So again, just stay focused, make sure you're turning after you jump. Sometimes you get a little bit hasty and you can turn as you're lining up the initial jump, which of course is going to mess you up. But if you focus and you time the turn correctly, everything goes well, you should be able to make it through. Now this one I'm going to talk about something I like to do, which is if you shift to the edge of a block and then you press W and space, you can actually press W a teeny tiny bit before you press space and still get a jump out of it, like there. It won't be the furthest jump possible because there is that sort of run-up time before you get to full speed, but it is a decently long jump. So what I do here is I shift all the way to the edge, and I do exactly that. I aim a little bit out so I don't run into the wall, and then I press W and space really quickly. So I do that. And this one is almost 4 blocks long, so I like to do the sort of momentum in place thing. And then again, there's 4 of these, so you just kind of have to get used to it. I think there was another way people did it, or at least Stream did it, where he like completely breezed through the whole thing, but I don't really know how that works, so I'm not going to try to explain it. Also, some people like to walk on these. I find that doesn't really work for me, but if you find it helps you, hey, more power to you. I just find it works a lot better for me if I just aim really far down, which means I can turn really quickly. It just works out better, in my opinion. And then if you get consistent enough to get 4 in a row, you get to beat the stage. Good stuff. So I had to take a little bit of a cut there. Basically, I had to go do something else for a little bit. It totally wasn't because I was messing up these jumps so hard that I had to restart. Nope, couldn't be me. Okay, so for this stage though, there are a few different jumps and a lot of them can be kind of tricky. So this first one, basically what I like to do is I start at the back and then jump to about here, like this very outside corner. And then from there, once I'm there, I aim sort of like this and hold W and A. And then that way, I try to make sure I get past the iron bar and then land on that trapdoor over there. So it should look kind of like that, except I was going too far forwards and not enough to the side there. Let me see. I was almost it. That time I went too much to the side though. There we go. So it takes a few tries, but you can make it. And this one, I do like to line it up, so I crouch onto the edge of this lower trapdoor, and then I sort of tap W until I pop up onto this upper one. Then to aim, So this one actually used to be 4 trapdoors in a row, so I would aim at the right edge of the furthest trapdoor. Nowadays it's just blocks, so you aim a little bit to the right of the blocks. I find if you aim a little bit to the right of this, you can usually make it, but if you aim further left than this, like here, you probably won't. So if I go like this, then I almost made it there, but I didn't turn enough. Another thing on that jump is some people like to start back here and get some momentum first, but I'm not very good at that because it's only 3 blocks long and I don't really know how to control it. So I try to line it up. Let me see if I can get back there. Nope. Let's see. There we go. And then this one, so I go like that, and then I go like that. And if you turn enough, you should be able to make it. Now this one's just a straightforward 4-block jump, but sometimes I don't make it. Then this one. So there was a jump like this in, I think the last one, MCC 9. And that one was actually way harder because you only had 1 block to jump from, and you had to land on this trapdoor to the side. So I did this whole thing where I would sort of line it up and then do a kind of weird jump. But now it's actually kind of easy because you have 4 blocks, which means you can just start from the back here, jump to the front, and then do another jump. And you should actually be able to make it not too difficult. I messed it up there, but after a couple attempts, it should work out. Let me see if I can get there again. Kind of like that. And you do kind of want to aim for this lower trapdoor, but if you can't, it is possible to land on this if you do that first sprint jump. And then this is pretty much the same as that jump back there from the trapdoor to the block. So I lined it up again because there's no way to momentum it. So I go to this upper one and I aim about there. It's maybe 2/3 of the way from that iron bar to that iron bar always. And that time I didn't make it because I didn't turn enough. So let's see if I can get there again. There we go. So you see I started on the upper trapdoor, I lined it up with that corner, I jumped, I turned, and then this one's not too hard. You can just jump straight out, basically, and then turn, sort of like that. Now, the final tower. So on this one, there are a couple ways to do it that I've seen. One is to sort of start back on the trapdoor, where you're up against the wall here, and then sort of sprint forward and time the jump, so you don't shift to the front edge of the trapdoor. I find I'm not that consistent at this method. I can pull it off a couple times, but eventually I just kind of mess it up. So what I do is I do shift to the front, and then I just do the timing of W in space, sort of like on 8-1, the L's, where if you shift to the edge, you can actually go forwards a little bit before you press space, and it still works. So find which one works best for you, and then you need to get 15 of these in a row to make it to the top. So there really isn't that much else to say. You either learn the timing to always get the W in space if you shift to the front edge, or you start from the back, and that actually gives you a little bit more leniency because basically when you're sprinting forwards, there's a bit of a delay before you fall if you start from the back like that. Basically what that is when you're sprinting forward like that, the game gives you a little bit of time even after you've walked off the edge to press the space bar. Sort of like coyote time, it's a pretty common hidden mechanic in a lot of games where if you walk off an edge, you have a little bit of time, a little bit more time than you should to save yourself. Another thing to be careful of is sometimes when you're jumping to here and from here to there and you're not careful, let's say you're aiming like there, that can happen and you just completely fall. So avoid that. Generally, I like to aim about there, the middle of the trapdoors, just to make sure that can never happen, but of course, you can still fall if you mess up the timing. Let's see, is there anything else to say about this? Oh right, I believe I actually built the stage wrong. I think it should be 3 blocks between here and here. I'd have to go back and check again. So if I do put a map download in the description for this video, I'm probably going to fix it in that one. But for now, I'm doing this. It's probably not that much harder. You just kind of have to aim straight like that. And you can see I made it. So again, if you get consistent enough to do 15 of those in a row, you beat the course. In any case, that's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. But for now, that's all I've got for you guys. Thanks so much for watching.